Hey guys, Scripture here with another video, and I was inspired to talk about the either decision or lack of decision making when it came to what George Lucas's plan was, with the Force and the midichlorians and what it all meant in terms of Anakin's conception. And part of the reason I'm bringing this up is because with the Acolyte, all the talk is about how the girls break canon, and there's no way that anyone else could be created through the Force except Anakin. And a lot of that made people really angry. A lot of the purists and hardcore Star Wars fans, that was the nail in the coffin for them with Disney Lucasfilm. Period. I've had guys on Twitter tell me they're done. That was it. They canceled their Disney Plus. They're never watching anything again. Everybody had a line. Some people it was Luke and the Last Jedi. Some people it was that. Some people it was other things. But we all know they've been doing a lot of really stupid stuff. So I kind of looked into it and was inspired to look into it by a tweet. And, you know, I think it was one of those things where George didn't have necessarily a clear-cut path. He was kind of a little bit all over the place and wasn't full on, this is the way it is. He might have been, but the greater fandom wasn't always completely understanding of what he was doing. So this I cannot confirm. I do not own the Star Wars archives. This is apparently from the 99 to 2005 Star Wars archives. I can't confirm that. If you, as a viewer of this video, can confirm that. I tried to find the pages. It's not like somebody's, taking a photo or photocopy of every page of those books. They're big books, 700 pages each one. And so I haven't been able to find verification for this. I'm going to take Star Wars Lucas versus word for it, and this is what he said. This is what he said George Lucas said in that book. The midichlorians started the birth process in Anakin's mother. The Wills communicated the command to the midichlorians, which activated the DNA that germinated the egg. That's why Anakin didn't have a father. He was, in a bizarre and metaphorical way, touched by God. But in this case, they happened to be one-celled animals. One-celled animals. Who's talking about the Wills? It's a little bit of a strange quote. I will say George Lucas was kind of about the Wills, which I was very disappointed in that. I don't like that at all. You guys let me know in the comment section if you like a group of like council of godlike creatures that are guiding the Force. I think that's lame. I think that's like every other pagan myth in history. It's always some group. Even in 300, right? We get those weirdos that he has to go up the tower, and it's always some weird, partially mysterious old dude thing. Like that's a trope that's been way overdone. I like the Force to be mysterious. I like the Force to do what the Force wants to do, and it has nothing to do with some group of creatures or people or counselors or whatever. I think that's just lame. And then it's like, well, where did that come from? The Force being mysterious and us not knowing where it came from and not, knowing exactly how it works is better in fantasy. Fantasy, you need some of that stuff, in my opinion. So, assuming that is correct, the Wills made this guy. I think what George isn't realizing when he makes this comment is that now all you're really doing is creating this huge subset of questions now. Okay, well, why didn't the Wills do that before? Why didn't they do it again and again and again? Why didn't they just keep doing that? Like, do the Wills want the war? Do they want all these people dying? Why don't they just will into existence the craziest Force user ever and never allow evil to exist in the galaxy? Like what? Like I understand people have free will, but I mean, if they have the ability to just go ahead and make Force users, why wouldn't they just do that? Right? And why wouldn't they do that all the time then, instead of letting things get out of control while they're sitting on their seats in their council chamber or whatever the heck they're doing? They're like these weird floaty, they look like aliens. That's the other thing. I think they were in Clone Wars or something, and they literally look like your classic alien, like with the big eyes. I don't know. To me, that is super lame. Okay, and I love George Lucas. I appreciate everything he did, but he had some pretty lame ideas, and that's definitely one of them. So, it just creates more questions than answers. You're better off leaving the Force mysterious. It's just stupid. The wills. So then there's this other stuff though, and this person here, and this is from 2005. This person gives you the full page number, everything else, and it says this is from The Making of Revenge of the Sith, and I have verified this, and I'll show you how I verified this. This is legit. This is from page 42 of The Making of Revenge of the Sith. On Coruscant, Palpatine completes his seduction of Anakin, who at first refuses to go over to the dark side until the Chancellor makes a startling confession. And that word confession is very important, because if it's not a confession, it could be a lie, right? He could just be saying what he's about to say to Anakin just to suck him in. But the wording is confession, making it seem like essentially he's saying this actually took place. It's a confession. It's not just a statement. But now, having said that, doesn't necessarily, he still could be lying, but it's just strange to me that you would use the word confession. So Darth Sidious says, I have waited all these years for you to fulfill your destiny. I arranged for your conception. I used the power of the Force to will the midichlorians to start the cell divisions that created you. I don't believe you, Anakin says. Sidious says, but you know it's true. When you clear your mind, you will sense the truth. You could almost think of me as your father. Anakin says, that's impossible. And then Sidious says, nevertheless, you must decide. And then it says, later this dialogue was cut. As you can see, if you read the second column, about halfway down on page 60, it simply states this there. The dialogue indicating that Palpatine is responsible for Anakin's creation has been cut. Sorry if this has already been confirmed or legitimately disputed. Okay. So it is confirmed. It is confirmed. Comicbook.com confirms it. I found this article. Many fans took to telling of the tale to mean that Palpatine used Plagueis' power to create Anakin in Shmi's womb. And at the time, people did think that after Revenge of the Sith. And the archives, 99 to 2005, which were mentioned by the original poster I put in the video, confirms this was George Lucas's intent, but that he ultimately decided not to spell it out and make it undeniable canon. According to the book, Lucas originally wrote the scene to include Palpatine saying to Anakin, I have waited all these years to fulfill your destiny, and revealing that he had used the power of the Force to will the midichlorians to start the cell division that led to Anakin's conception. There's been some debate and conflict around this theory in recent years after Disney took over the franchise and rebooted its expanded universe canon. In 2018, Marvel concluded its second Darth Vader ongoing comic book series with a story that saw Darth Vader returning to Mustafar in an attempt to resurrect Padme. Vader instead has a Force vision that seems to suggest that Palpatine orchestrated Anakin's birth in order so that he could fulfill the prophecy of the Chosen One. And that is in there. There was no father, unnatural, the Chosen One. And I'm going to get to my main point here in just a second. Star Wars group member Matt Martin stated on social media, this is not a correct interpretation of the comic scene. He tweeted, this is all in Anakin's head. I can tell you definitively, as someone who worked on the comic, that is 100% not the intended implication. It's part of my job to ensure stories are aligned with the overall vision of Star Wars. If the intention was to make a direct connection between Palps and Anakin's birth, I would have had it removed. After someone questioned Martin's authority on the matter on the basis that Martin did not write the comic book, Charles Soule, who did write the issue, chimed in as well. I am, in fact, the writer. Matt and I worked closely on this series, and this point in particular. I hate explaining stuff in my work in too much detail, but you need to understand the scenario happening here. The dark side is not a reliable narrator. Okay, so then they're saying that Sidious, they're essentially saying that this scene that was removed, the dialogue, I should say, that was removed, would have gone down, I guess, as Sidious just manipulating him further. But he also says, when you clear your mind, you will sense the truth. So he's taking a bit of a gamble doing that, in that Anakin may clear his mind and sense that he's lying. And again, why would you put Palpatine in this? Okay, it's his vision. So what? So you're saying that Palpatine did manipulate him into thinking he seeded Shmi? Like, because why is he in this comic strip? Like, why is he there? What is he doing there? If that isn't what you're trying to do, like, if this is just Anakin's vision, like he said in that quote, Charles Soule said, if this was Anakin's vision, just a manipulation by Palpatine to screw with him, then you're essentially saying that Anakin as Darth Vader believed that Palpatine seeded him. Which brings in a whole entire pile of implications, including he's essentially throwing his father down the shaft in The Return of the Jedi. In his mind. Whether he was actually his father or not. In his mind. So, here, all that to say, I think all of this stems from the fact that nothing was set in stone. I think that these lines of dialogue were there as an option for George. He thought about this as a possibility. It is an interesting twist, in my view. And I think he didn't shut the door on it right away. And then that created some confusion. And then led to these guys doing this comic book this way. And people having different views of it and debating how far this went. Now, from my money, my whole problem with the prophecy thing was that they took a character called Darth Vader, who was the pit bull, but not, like, Darth Maul was more of a pit bull. He was more like he was like a sophisticated muscle man for Palpatine, essentially. Right? He was a Force user. He went around and he did stuff that other people just couldn't do within the Empire. And in the original EU, he killed all the Jedi that survived Order 66. That was his job. He didn't have stupid Inquisitors, okay? That was his job. And so Palpatine needed him. But then George, because Vader was so popular and made a lot of money, he became Space Jesus. And I know that there's claims that he had all these stories written out. No, he didn't. He didn't even have Luke and Leia as brother and sister written out. And that was a movie he was working on. And you're telling me he had all this stuff planned out? No, it was because Darth Vader was the most popular villain in the history of cinema. So why not tell his origin story? Which, I'm fine with that. Go ahead, of course. It's great. But he made him Space Jesus. He made the prophecy. And my whole thing was, that's kind of weird. It's weird that there'd be a prophecy about this guy who's going to balance the Force, but he has to kill millions of people to finally get to that destination. That, to me, is weird. Really? That's the prophecy that the Jedi held in esteem? Turned out to be that he becomes this evil piece of crap that kills millions upon millions of people? Innocent people, not stormtroopers, not the Death Star with Luke, not a Death Star that blows up planets, okay? Those weren't innocent people that Luke killed. Innocent people throughout the galaxy. Innocent Jedi that hadn't done anything wrong. If anything, they'd only done good things, right? So I always found that a little weird personally. And my whole take was, and this is the final point here that I'm going to make, is I viewed Shmi, I thought to myself, okay, and I rewrote the sequels, and if you haven't seen the sort of re-edited version, it's on YouTube. For me, I thought about it and I said, okay, so wouldn't it make more sense, because Vader turned out to be this piece of crap, you have to have a villain of some kind, right? And you had Snoke, who was a dark side Force user. That's what Disney put in there. And so I thought to myself, what would be a way to make the prophecy work, but in a different way? And so my whole thought process was, okay, so maybe the prophecy is real, but maybe Qui-Gon and the Jedi fell for a trick. In other words, and to tie all the 9 movies together, my thing was, Snoke is Darth Plagueis. I changed him, put a breathing apparatus on him, blah, 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 whatever. He's, big and tall like a mun and all that stuff. And he seeded Shmi to trick the Jedi into thinking. So when Qui-Gon takes the midichlorians and sends them to Obi-Wan, and he finds out it's just the craziest, most concentrated amount of midichlorians ever, they fell for his trap that this guy was the chosen one, when in reality, Palpatine was going to manipulate him because he knew about the plan as well. Remember when he says in the end of episode 1, he says, I'll be watching your career closely, or whatever it was? That, to me, was saying, like, he knew that this had been done, and he was going to use this guy eventually to further take over the galaxy, destroy the Jedi, all those things, which he eventually did. And I thought that made way more sense. So he's no longer Space Jesus. He's just a really amazing, cool villain, and we got his really awesome origin story. You don't need him to be Space Jesus for it to be cool. And it also shows the incredible amount of manipulation by the dark side and how far they're willing to go to take out the Jedi. And it just adds to the story and adds to the depth of them taking out the Jedi and the importance of that and how they went about doing that. And it also would make some of those scenes in The Phantom Menace and the scenes with him not making a master and all those things, because they had trepidations about Anakin and they could sense something about him wasn't right. And that's because Plagueis seeded him and started that ball rolling from the beginning. And Palpatine just finished the job. So that made more sense to me than Space Jesus being this evil killer who murders everybody. That was my personal opinion, so that's what I did in my Sequels Reimagined. Again, you can watch them. There's 3 playlists, one for each movie. They're like regular movie length. They don't always look good, but I did my best with what I had. And and copyright stuff, there's so much crazy editing you have to do to make it work. But the story's there. It's a good story. It is about Anakin's grandchildren, in plural. And anyway, so that was my take on it. So at the end of the day, these guys, they didn't make hard, fast decisions. Let me know in the comment section what you think. Would you have wanted the Wills to be involved? What do you think about the fact that Disney put Palpatine in that vision? So then what does that mean? Does Anakin think that that's his dad then going forward from that moment? Like, what are they doing? Are they making sense of this, or are they just making it more convoluted? Is George making sense of it, or is he making it more convoluted? Let me know in the comment section what you think. If you like this content, please like, subscribe. Always helps the channel. Feel free to check anything else on my channel. Have yourselves a really good day.